Smokey Robinson was a famous singer who seemed perfect to everyone, but for 30 years, he was living two completely different lives. On one side, he was like a king in the music world. On the other side, he was a man hiding big secrets that no one knew about. Let's go through his whole life story to see how this music legend lived, what he hid from everyone, and how he finally had to face the truth about everything he had done. William Smokey Robinson was born in the year 1940 in the city of Detroit. He grew up in a neighborhood where working-class families lived. Back in those days, Detroit was the place where factories and big industries were booming in America. It was also the place where early soul music and rhythm and blues music were just starting to become popular. When Smokey was just a young kid, people could already see that he had amazing musical talent. He loved to write songs, he learned to play musical instruments, and he started a singing group with his friends from the neighborhood. They called their group the Miracles. In 1957, something really important happened. The group got introduced to a music producer named Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy would go on to start a famous record company called Motown Records. That first meeting changed everything for both of them. Berry Gordy got his very first artist to help him build his music business. And Smokey Robinson found the perfect place where he could write songs and let his talent grow. In 1960, there was a song called Shop Around. Smokey wrote it and sang it with the Miracles. This song became Motown's very first huge hit. It sold millions and millions of copies. When that happened, Smokey Robinson's name became famous all across the music world. The song also helped define what Motown music would sound like going forward. The music had catchy melodies that were easy to remember, lyrics that people could relate to their own lives, and emotional singing that touched people's hearts. This style of music appealed to all kinds of audiences, no matter what their background was. From that moment on, Smokey Robinson became like the main architect of what Motown music was all about. He was important both as a singer performing songs and as a songwriter creating songs for other artists to sing. During the entire 1960s decade, Smokey Robinson wrote tons and tons of hit songs. He wrote for groups like The Temptations, The Supremes, and The Marvelettes. His songs had a special quality. They were popular enough for regular people to love them, but they also had sophistication and depth to them. His music helped Motown break through racial barriers and become a worldwide phenomenon. Music critics called him the man who turned soul music into the common language that all American listeners could understand and enjoy. At the same time his career was taking off, Smokey Robinson's public image was being very carefully created and controlled. He always showed up to events wearing perfectly neat and stylish clothes. He spoke in a calm and precise way. He carried himself with quiet grace and elegance. This wasn't just how he naturally was. It was actually part of Motown's strategy for managing how their artists looked to the public. Berry Gordy had strict rules that every artist had to follow. They had to look polished and professional at all times. They were told to avoid drinking alcohol, avoid drugs, and avoid talking about controversial subjects or topics that might cause problems. For Smokey Robinson, these rules were even stricter than for other artists because he was considered the face of the entire record label. Motown also made artists sign something called a silence contract. This contract forbid them from revealing private matters about their personal lives or speaking about anything beyond the topics that Motown approved. This system was designed to preserve the label's clean and perfect image. It projected stability and reliability to the public. Under all of this control, Smokey Robinson became the ideal figure that Motown wanted. He was seen as a perfect gentleman who wrote beautiful, immortal love songs. At work in the studio, Smokey Robinson was completely professional. He arrived at the recording studio early in the morning. He followed the schedule precisely and never ran late. He often took time to help his colleagues improve their song lyrics The other musicians who worked with him described him as patient, reserved, and someone who almost never got angry or lost his temper. For the first 20 years of his career, there was not a single scandal or controversy connected to his name. Motown tightly managed and controlled all information about him. They made sure the public only saw one single image of him, the image of a flawless, perfect artist. From that carefully built foundation of perfection, Smokey Robinson moved into a new era where he had even more power and influence within Motown. He was no longer just a songwriter. He had also become a leader who was shaping the entire musical direction of the whole record label. When it came to his professional relationships with other artists, Smokey Robinson was both a colleague and a mentor. Like a teacher or guide, he helped the Temptations develop and shape their performing style on stage. He wrote special songs specifically for Diana Ross. He collaborated with Marvin Gaye on several different projects. Smokey Robinson's music had a smooth, flowing melody. He was skillful at blending soul music with pop music together, creating a perfect balance against the more intense and aggressive music trends that were popular during that time period. His image became the stabilizing center of Motown, the person who kept the whole system operating smoothly and cohesively, even as the company kept growing bigger and bigger. During the 1960s and 1970s, Smokey Robinson reached the absolute peak and highest point of his songwriting career. Many songs that he composed became symbols of American popular music. Songs like The Tracks of My Tears, You've Really Got a Hold on Me, Tears of a Clown, Ooh Baby Baby, and Being With You defined what the Motown style was all about. The songs were sentimental and emotional. They had simple structures that were easy to follow, but they were still very effective at touching people's hearts. The lyrics were refined and beautifully written. And they had wide appeal, meaning lots of different kinds of people loved them. Many of the songs that Smokey Robinson wrote for other artists to perform went on to become timeless hits that people still love today. This established him as one of the most influential and important songwriters in the entire history of soul and R&B music. The Tracks of My Tears featured a restrained and controlled melodic structure that reflected Smokey's songwriting philosophy. He believed in wrapping sadness inside beauty. You've Really Got a Hold on Me demonstrated the intersection, the meeting point, of soul and pop music. It helped the Motown sound reach white audiences in America who might not have listened to soul music before. Tears of a Clown, which Smokey wrote together with Stevie Wonder, reached the #1 position on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. This was the greatest commercial success of his entire career with the Miracles. The success of all these songs did two important things. First, it reinforced Smokey Robinson's position as Motown's leading and most important songwriter. Second, it helped the record label become the very first African-American music brand to gain global recognition all around the world. Berry Gordy described Smokey Robinson as the emotional foundation of Motown. He said Smokey brought to the label a rare equilibrium, a rare balance, between artistry and accessibility. This means his music was both artistic and deep, but also accessible and easy for regular people to enjoy. That important position also came with its own pressure and stress. As music became mass-produced like products in a factory, the boundary between creativity and commerce, between art and business, grew increasingly blurred and unclear. Smokey Robinson had to make sure that each song he wrote possessed artistic depth and meaning, but at the same time, it also had to meet commercial expectations and make money. He once remarked that writing for Motown was like writing poetry while doing accounting at the same time. This tension and conflict led him to experiment with different sounds and adjust his habits. Though on the outside, he always maintained a calm outward demeanor and appearance. The relationship between Smokey Robinson and Marvin Gaye was a notable and important element of this time period. The two men worked closely together in the recording studio. They shared songwriting methods and techniques with each other. They discussed their aesthetic views, their ideas about what made music beautiful and meaningful. Smokey Robinson helped Marvin Gaye shape a softer ballad style. Meanwhile, Marvin Gaye inspired Smokey Robinson to explore greater social depth in his music, to write about deeper social issues. This interaction and exchange expanded Motown's creative scope beyond the limits of just mainstream pop music. Smokey Robinson's solo career, his career as a single artist without the miracles, also flourished and did really well. He released several albums. Among those albums, one called A Quiet Storm, from 1975 became a landmark and milestone. It actually gave birth to a whole new genre of music with the same name. The album carried a calm, introspective tone, a thoughtful, looking, inward feeling. This contrasted with the lively, energetic disco trend that was popular at the time. Since then, Quiet Storm became a popular format on American radio stations for decades. This proved the enduring and lasting influence of Smokey Robinson's musical sensibility, his good taste in music. As the 21st century began in the year 2000, Smokey Robinson remained active in music. He joined Motown revival projects that celebrated the label's history. He performed at tribute events honoring Motown, and he maintained a loyal global audience of fans all around the world. His music's appeal came from melodic simplicity, simple, beautiful melodies, and emotional honesty that felt real and true. This allowed his music to connect with people across different generations. In 2023, when he was already very old, he released an album called Gasms. This album explored sexuality with rare openness in his career. It was seen as an act of personal liberation, him freeing himself from old constraints. The album challenged his long-standing image as a pure, innocent artist. People had divided opinions about it. Some saw it as artistic evolution, him growing as an artist. Others saw it as a departure from Motown tradition, him leaving behind what Motown was supposed to be about. Beyond just making music, Smokey Robinson served as an advisor and speaker in the music industry. He sat on award panels that judged music competitions. He appeared in talent programs on TV. He was often invited to speak about the Motown legacy and what Motown meant in music history. At public events, he continued to display composure and self-control. He maintained a certain distance from the media and didn't share too much. His presence at events, though less frequent as he got older, retained symbolic value. He represented Motown's golden era, the best time period in the label's history, and he demonstrated the adaptability of an artist who had sustained a career spanning more than half a century, more than 50 years. After the height of his fame and success, personal issues, emotional problems, and private boundaries gradually surfaced and came to light. This signaled the beginning of a more turbulent and troubled phase in his life. At the height of his career with Motown, when he was at his most successful, Smokey Robinson maintained the image of a devoted husband, an upright man with good morals. He married a woman named Claudette Rogers in 1959. She was the only female member of the Miracles. Their marriage was regarded as a model of lasting love in the demanding and difficult world of Motown. In the music industry, artistic pressure often fractured and broke relationships apart. But their marriage seemed strong. The couple had 2 children together. They lived in Detroit. They engaged in charity work supporting African American youth in the community. Their family symbolized the values that Berry Gordy wanted Motown to represent. He wanted Motown to stand for music rooted in morality and social responsibility. Smokey Robinson rarely spoke about his personal life in public. He focused on talking about music and his colleagues instead. He steered clear of intimate topics and private matters. To the public, he appeared calm and dignified at all times. Within Motown, other artists saw him as the trusted big brother figure. In rehearsals, he gave advice to younger artists. He told them to maintain healthy habits and avoid alcohol or drugs. This reinforced his moral authority within the label, his position as someone who could teach others how to live right. The balance between his family life and his career made Smokey Robinson a stabilizing presence at Motown. While many of his peers, other artists at his level, struggled with personal turmoil and problems, he remained composed and consistent. He was often invited to award ceremonies and tribute events. He always spoke respectfully of Claudette. He called her his companion and expressed affection for her without making a big spectacle or show of it. But beneath that harmony and peace, there lay a family dynamic that was shaped by Motown's strict image management. Claudette left the Miracles for a time to focus on being a mother to their children. Meanwhile, Smokey Robinson's constant touring and traveling created emotional distance between them. The public never knew about these problems because the label tightly controlled every detail about the artists' lives. During the 1960s, Smokey Robinson worked closely with Diana Ross. They often recorded music together in the studio. They appeared together at events. This fueled rumors of a relationship beyond just music. People wondered if they were romantically involved. Smokey Robinson never confirmed it, though. There was a song called "I'm Still Waiting" that he wrote for Diana Ross. Many people interpreted this song as a sign of personal connection between them, as evidence that there was something more than just friendship. Claudette was aware of the gossip and rumors, but she stayed silent about it. This was consistent with Motown's culture of discretion, where private matters were kept secret to serve the company's collective image. The story between Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross was more than just celebrity rumor and gossip. It reflected Motown's structure of intertwined power, creativity, and personal bonds all mixed together. Writing songs for Diana Ross elevated her career and made her more successful. At the same time, it reinforced Smokey Robinson's role as a musical guide and mentor. The overlap between professional relationships and personal relationships increased the pressure on everyone involved. Even so, the public image of the Robinson family remained flawless and perfect. Smokey and Claudette's son from their marriage rarely appeared in public. He lived apart from his family for much of his life. He once said, "I am the erased part of Motown." That statement revealed the lasting impact of image control, not only on the artists themselves, but also on their families and children. By the late 1980s, Smokey Robinson shifted toward social causes and helping the community. He established a community arts foundation in Detroit. He funded music education programs for young people. He received numerous humanitarian awards for his charitable work. His public image embodied Motown's humanitarian spirit, the idea of art as a force that brings people together and unifies them. Still, he shared very little about his private life with the public. He appeared only at formal tributes or official events. Unresolved conflicts and suppressed emotions slowly accumulated and built up inside of him. This set the stage for the next phase of his life, when the hidden shadows and dark parts of his life would begin to emerge and come out into the open. After more than 2 decades, more than 20 years, of maintaining a flawless and perfect image, Smokey Robinson entered the most turbulent and troubled period of his life. Although he was still regarded as a Motown icon and legend, he began to fall into a state of isolation and exhaustion. The relentless schedule that never let up, the executive responsibilities he had to handle, and the pressure to preserve the image of the perfect man caused Smokey Robinson to suffer from prolonged stress that went on for a long time. In the fiercely competitive music industry where everyone was fighting to be the best, he began using cocaine. At first, he used it just to stay alert and awake so he could keep working. But later, it became a difficult habit to control, an addiction. During the 1970s, American music underwent major changes and transformations. Motown had to adapt to new tastes and what audiences wanted, but Smokey Robinson remained bound by the old mold, stuck in the old way of doing things. The conflict between his personal creativity and the commercial demands of the business gradually led him to seek escape through stimulants and drugs. Cocaine allowed him to extend his working hours and work longer, but simultaneously, at the same time, it deteriorated his health and made him sicker. Many people within the label noticed the change in him, though Motown's system always prioritized protecting the artist's public image, so they kept everything internal and secret. At the same time, Smokey Robinson's marriage to Claudette began to fracture and break apart. Constant tours where he was away from home, and rumors of infidelity, rumors that he was cheating on her, created growing distance between them. Claudette once revealed publicly that she discovered her husband had a child with another woman. She found out after seeing the child's name on a birth certificate. That was when Smokey Robinson admitted to having an illegitimate son, a son born outside of marriage, named Trey. This happened after they had been married for nearly 30 years together. Eventually, the marriage ended in divorce. This closed the chapter of Motown's model family, the perfect family that everyone had looked up to. During this crisis, Smokey Robinson's music took a new turn, and people started to understand it differently. The song Tracks of My Tears, which he had written during his years with the Miracles long ago, was reinterpreted as a personal confession, as him confessing his true feelings. There's a line in the song that goes, "People say I'm the life of the party, but behind my smile is pain." This line reflected the concealment of his true emotions, how he was hiding what he really felt inside. Smokey Robinson admitted later that the song represented a time when he had to maintain composure and keep smiling on the outside, while his mind was in turmoil and chaos on the inside. Although the song was written earlier in his career, it became a symbol of his inner state for many years that followed. His addiction to cocaine grew more and more severe. Smokey Robinson started missing recording sessions. He wouldn't show up when he was supposed to. His health deteriorated and got worse. His spirit weakened. By the mid-1980s, Smokey Robinson collapsed completely. He hit rock bottom. He admitted that he had lost the ability to compose music anymore. He suffered from hallucinations, seeing things that weren't really there. He fell into financial ruin and had money problems. When his health became critical and life-threatening, he finally agreed to enter rehabilitation, to go to a treatment center to get help. He later called this period the lowest point of his life. It was the time when his fame, his marriage, and his health all collapsed simultaneously, all at the same time. After recovering and getting out of treatment, Smokey Robinson returned to Motown with a different mindset and a changed perspective on life. He decided to write his autobiography, the story of his own life, which was published in 1989. In the book, he openly discussed his addiction to drugs, his infidelity and cheating, and his chaotic past. The book drew a lot of attention because it was rare for Motown artists to be this honest. Smokey Robinson described in detail the process of his addiction, how it happened. He wrote about the relapses when he went back to using drugs again. He wrote about the emptiness and hollow feeling he felt after performing on stage. This act of disclosure, of revealing the truth, was seen as a form of liberation and freedom. It ended the long, maintained image of a spotless, perfect artist that had been protected for so many years. During his recovery process, a woman named Frances Gladney came back into his life. She was a longtime friend who had worked within Motown. Frances knew Smokey Robinson's past very well. She supported him through his treatment and recovery. She managed his work and business affairs. She helped restore his stability and get his life back on track. Their relationship gradually deepened and became romantic. Later, they got married. Frances was seen as the person who helped Smokey Robinson regain balance and sustain his career after the crisis. The 1989 memoir, his autobiography, was not only a personal confession of his own mistakes. It also reflected the shift in how American artists were perceived in the late 20th century. During this time period, people began to regard personal truth and honesty as part of an artist's creative legacy, part of what they leave behind. Although the wounds of the past could not be erased or completely healed, Smokey Robinson became a symbol of resilience, of bouncing back from hardship. He was proof that behind Motown's brilliance and glory stood a real human being. A person marked by limits, mistakes, and the desire to live authentically, to live as his true self. In 2025, at the age of 85 years old, Smokey Robinson was considered a living symbol. He was someone who had experienced every rise and fall of American music throughout the decades. He continued performing occasionally. He attended Motown tribute events that celebrated the label's history, and he maintained a calm and peaceful image. But that image shifted dramatically when 4 women simultaneously filed lawsuits against him. They accused him of harassment and abuse that allegedly happened between the years 2017 and 2022. They were seeking $50 million in damages, money they wanted as compensation. The case immediately drew public attention because the defendant, the person being accused, was not only a famous singer. He was a cultural figure deeply tied to the Motown legacy and everything it represented. Smokey Robinson denied all allegations, all the accusations against him. He filed a counterclaim for $500 million. This means he was suing the women back, saying they were lying. He called the lawsuits an organized defamation attempt, a planned effort to ruin his reputation. His legal team stated there was no direct evidence to support the women's claims. They said that most of the plaintiffs, the women filing the lawsuits, were temporary staff members who had worked for him briefly. The simultaneous filing of multiple lawsuits, the fact that 4 women filed at the same time, raised suspicion among some people. They wondered about the work environment surrounding Smokey Robinson. Was there really a pattern of bad behavior? The media quickly revisited Motown's culture of silence. They talked about how Motown's system was once designed to protect artists by concealing their private lives and keeping secrets. Now people were asking whether that culture of silence had allowed bad behavior to go unchecked. Frances Gladney, Smokey Robinson's current wife, was mentioned in court documents related to the case. Some witnesses claimed that she had interfered with backstage affairs during tours. They said she used offensive language toward employees and treated people badly. Frances's representatives denied all the claims. They described them as unfounded speculation, as rumors with no basis in truth. Even so, her inclusion in the case expanded the crisis into the family sphere. It wasn't just about Smokey Robinson anymore. It was also affecting the image he had rebuilt over many years with Frances by his side. Public reaction to the lawsuit was sharply divided. People had very different opinions. A segment of younger audiences called for Smokey Robinson's music to be removed from streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. They argued that art could not be separated from moral responsibility. They believed that if an artist does bad things, people shouldn't support their art. On the other hand, older fans defended him. They said there had been no legal verdict yet, no court decision proving he was guilty. They argued that erasing a legend based on accusations alone was unjust and unfair. Cultural observers, people who study culture and society, noted that the case extended beyond just personal controversy. It reflected a generational clash between 2 groups. One generation viewed transparency and truth as a moral standard. The other generation was raised in an era of institutional protection, where companies and organizations protected their artists and kept secrets. While awaiting trial in court, Smokey Robinson withdrew from public life completely. He canceled all of his tours and stopped performing. He deactivated his social media accounts. He communicated only through his legal team, his lawyers. Sources close to him said that he was living quietly in Los Angeles. He spent his time reading books, writing memoirs about his life, and exercising daily to stay healthy. Frances remained by his side throughout this difficult time. She was managing his finances and communication with the outside world. A few rare photos that were published showed Smokey Robinson looking thinner than before, but still lucid, still mentally clear and aware. By the middle of 2025, Smokey Robinson broke his silence. He gave an interview to a local radio station. In the interview, he said, "I have lived long enough to know that truth can be misunderstood, but I am not afraid. I only hope everything will be seen fairly." The concise statement, short and to the point, showed his awareness of the gravity of the crisis. He understood how serious the situation was. Outside the courtroom, while the legal case was ongoing, Smokey Robinson's songs continued to be played during Motown tributes and celebrations. Though they were played less frequently than before, some radio stations aired his music with a note saying it was for historical value, meaning they played it because of its importance in music history, not necessarily because they endorsed him as a person. Although Smokey Robinson was absent from public appearances, his name was still mentioned in Motown commemorations. He was still recognized as the man who helped lay the foundation of Motown, who helped build it from the beginning. From starting out as a poor boy in Detroit to becoming a Motown legend, and now being the central figure of the 2025 controversy, Smokey Robinson closed a long journey. His life was marked by three contrasts, three opposing forces: glory, failure, and endurance. The songs that once embodied love and romance now stand as traces of a life filled with contradictions. Contradictions between the private man he really was and the public image that everyone saw. Even without a verdict from the court, even without a final decision on whether he's guilty or innocent, Smokey Robinson continues to compose music in private, and he awaits the final judgment of time on the true worth of his legacy, what he will ultimately be remembered for. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to receive the latest analyses and updates about this story as it continues to develop.